The father wrote Diwar and Trishul, the son Dil Chahta Hai. The father's a poet, the son's a director. You know both of them as individuals. Today's your chance to see them together talking about each other. I'm talking, of course, about Javed Akhtar and his son Farhan. Welcome to the program. Farhan, you're in the process of shooting your second film, Laksha, and I gather the screenplay is written by your dad. Has he turned out another Sholay, or is it a second Roop Ki Rani?
I wouldn't compare it to either film. It's a Laksh. It's a great screenplay. It's a really good screenplay. And
of course, what I was hinting at is this going to be a success like Sholay, or a rather unfortunate flop like Roop Ki Rani?
I mean, I really do hope the first one. I mean, you never know. We're doing the best we can.
You're tentative at the moment. You don't want to talk about it at all.
No, it's not that I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to really think about what the box office fate of the film is going to be.
Is it easy to be directing one's father when he's the screenplay writer?
I mean, it is a little difficult because when you've sat a lot and discussed scenes and discussed the way they're going to unfold, and at times then you have to take a certain call on set in terms of, okay, fine, I'm going to do away with this or add something on. And then you know the kind of history that he has of the kind of scripts that he's written, how good they were. So taking a little bit of creative license, at times you do worry a little more than you would if it wasn't written by him.
The great directors who produced your big hits, Diwar, Trishul, Sholay, were people like Yash Chopra and Ramesh Sippy. How does Farhan compare with them?
Nowadays, more often than not, I'm working with people who are younger than me. But if you realize that after a certain age, everybody is an adult and everybody is as much an individual as you are, and because you are 20 years or 15 years or 30 years elder than a person, it doesn't mean that you are wiser or you are more intelligent and you are right all the time. That's not possible. So if you have this understanding, then it is not difficult to work with a person who is younger than you, and even if he's your son, so what?
You went back, in fact, in terms of collaboration with each other, all the way back to his first film. You did the lyrics for it.
That's right.
The day he showed you the screenplay, were you taken completely by surprise?
I was surprised because I didn't know that he's writing the screenplay, but I was not surprised by the quality of the screenplay. I mean, I was very happy. You see, it is not enough to be good. It is not enough to be successful. What is important that you should be good in your own way. You should be successful on your own terms and conditions. What I liked about this screenplay, I'm happy that the picture was successful, but what gives me more satisfaction that it was a voice, not someone else's echo. That is important.
They say that the collaboration between father and son actually goes all the way back to the days when you were in school. Apparently your teachers used to insist that Javed wrote plays for the boys to perform and you would direct them.
I would direct them, and at times direct them quite badly in school. In school as well. I remember we did this play on Independence Day once, and all the people who were marching down the set street with the Quit India movement were wearing jeans and t-shirts, and they were like, shouldn't they be like in kurta pajama or some kind of khadi thing? And I was like, yeah, a little minor detail that I forgot to like add in myself.
I hope this time the army officers are wearing army uniform, yes, not khadi ka kurta pajama.
No.
But you know, a moment ago you spoke about how proud you were that Farhan had his own voice. Were you detecting that voice when he put freedom fighters into blue jeans?
I knew that he's interested in drama. I knew that he's interested in poetry and in cinema. I remember that when he was hardly 4 or 5 years old, he had his own little Walkman with a couple of cassettes of Sholay dialogue, and sometimes he would sit alone and listen to the dialogue, particularly the scene where Jay is dying, and he would cry, a 4-year-old child crying on Jay's death. So he was very much interested in cinema right from his childhood.
But intimations of the award-winning director weren't apparent at that age.
I didn't know that. I knew that he can write because he had written few passages and he had shown me. He writes poetry also. I don't know whether I should tell them or not, but he is a...
He's going to keep the lamp of the family tradition burning. 5 generations or 7, is it not, of poets?
So when he showed me his script, it was not a total surprise, but all right, so let's say it was a pleasant surprise because I liked the script.
Your father says that in addition to writing, you were also an incorrigible narcissist as a child.
Really?
Oh, so were you. You had at least 12 caps, Farhan, at the age of 6.
I guess that's the other thing apart from the sense of humor that I've inherited.
Yes, he says, by the way, that the thing that he's most proud of is that in addition to his intelligence, he says, my son's got my sense of humor.
Yeah. Just,
you don't find that funny at all?
We just won't let any of our friends know that.
Now, the sad part is that this happy idyll between father and son, in a sense, got shattered when you were 8 or 9, when your parents divorced. How did they break the news to you?
As far as I can remember, I think my mother told me. She was in Bangalore, I think at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And Zoya and me had gone there to meet her, and that's when she told
Zoya
us.
is your sister?
Zoya is my sister. And that's when she told us.
Did you understand what she was talking about?
Not entirely then. I mean, the only thing I really knew was that him and my mum wouldn't be living together anymore. Is really the only implication that it had immediately on my life then.
In your interviews, you've said that seeing your mother distraught and unhappy, your feelings were entirely with her. Was there a sense in which you were angry with your father?
I guess, yeah, to a certain extent I would say I was. But I think it also stemmed from not understanding and not seeing the entire picture clearly. Just being with my mum, seeing her on a daily basis and seeing her sad then. So yeah, there definitely was a little bit of anger.
As the person in a sense who'd caused the pain and broken the relationship, did you reproach yourself with guilt? Did you feel that you'd been selfish?
See, however civilized a divorce may be, it cannot be totally painless. That's not possible. And if you have any sensitivity and you realize that you are causing pain to somebody, you have to feel guilty, you will. And I did, and I still do, as a matter of fact. But at the same time, you weigh things, the pros and cons. And you know, living in an unhappy relationship because of any reason is not good for both parties. And ultimately, I suppose that it became very, very positive. It was, to begin with, painful for me, painful for her, maybe painful for children, of course.
Seeing the children, because they were very young, did it ever worry you that you might lose them, perhaps lose their affection?
Somehow, my relationship with them never had any gap. It never broke. We were all the time in touch. And I mean, as I said that no divorce can be totally painless, but a divorce was as civilized a divorce can be. And there was never a time when Honey and me were not in touch almost on a daily basis.
In 83, just a couple of years after the divorce, your father got married again to Shabana. You were probably just about in your teens at the time. Was it difficult to adjust to a stepmother?
Actually, I wasn't even just about my teens. I think in 83 I was 9. To be very honest, I mean that entire period really is not very clear in my memory. There's certain bits and pieces that I remember. I remember definitely there being an effort not just from my dad's side, not just from Shabana's side, but even from mom, from Zoya, from me, to like try to keep it like, not make it nasty, not make it, just to keep it healthy, to keep all the relationships healthy. And we definitely did interact a lot. I remember initially having a few problems getting to know her, where I'd be there and wake up in the morning and would want breakfast but feel really embarrassed and awkward to ask her for it. So I'd start crying. And then she'd be like, "Why are you crying?" And I'd be like, "I want a fried egg." And she'd be like, "So why don't you just ask me?"
So far from her being the difficult one, you were actually intimidating her.
Possibly, yeah, possibly then. Yeah, I think because they definitely were, mom, dad and Shabana were trying to keep Zoya and me away from, I think, getting involved in the bitterness, if any, that there was, and just making sure that our relationships were healthy and we grew up as healthy.
How did you as father break the news to your children that you were getting married again?
Somehow I think I felt that Farhan is a bit too young, and he was. But I did speak to Zoya about it. Zoya is a year and a half elder than him, and she has always been a little more matured than her years. So I spoke to her. Children are very secretive people, you know. I also have been a child long, long ago, few centuries back. And they don't show their emotions to their parents. They don't share their feelings. They are very secretive. So when your child says that, all right, it's fine, I understand, it doesn't mean that the child is not hurt. And that's what she did. But I'll be a fool or very naive to believe that she was not hurt at all.
How did you ensure that someone that you wanted them to love and respect eventually, just because she was a stepmother, didn't become a figure of hate?
I think I will not take the credit for that. I'll give this credit to Honey and to Shabana.
They managed it.
Yes, that's true. And as a matter of fact, basically Honey, you know, because in a way, in a male-dominated society, is the woman generally who is the aggrieved party in divorces. And she had all the right to feel bitter. She could be vindictive, vengeful. She could say things to the children which would affect them for the rest of their lives. But I mean, hats off to her, that if they have such healthy attitude towards these relationships and towards Shabana or towards me for that matter, I think basically the credit should go to Honey.
Would you accept that, Farhan, that it's your mother who gave you the emotional balance? Your mother who gave you the ability to accept the terrible reality of a father who was not entirely yours also being shared?
Yeah, I think so. She definitely didn't transfer any of the load that she had on her shoulders onto Zoya and me.
And yet you could see that she lived with the pain.
Initially, but as Dad just said, they were always friends and they remained friends. And I think that did help, because it wasn't just like losing the person entirely. You still had
a relationship.
Yeah, you still had a relationship with that person.
You said a very interesting, in fact, an amazing thing. You said that today, if I were to count my top 3 friends, my first wife, Honey, would definitely be one of them.
Oh yes, oh yes.
In a strange way, the divorce has helped the friendship grow stronger.
Yes. And I'm sure that if Honey thinks of 3 friends, my name will be there.
You're confident of that?
Oh yes.
Why are you laughing?
I'm just like...
Till she says don't.
You know, they always say that...
Till somebody actually asks.
They always say that it's children who suffer when a divorce happens. Today, when you're married and you have children of your own,
Right.
Would you say that your parents did the right thing by separating?
No, it's 2 completely different issues. The relationship that Aduna, my wife, and me share is, I don't think is the same. I don't know what their relationship was like, but no relationship is ever the same in a marriage. There's too many different permutations and combinations.
But despite the fact that you didn't want parents who separated, can you look back today and say it was the right thing? That they may have tortured each other if they'd continued together?
It's too hypothetical a thought. I think the way it is now, there's nothing wrong in the way it is now, and I've accepted that, and I'm happy with the way it is.
And as a matter of fact, I really believe not even the children can guess what is the real chemistry between
husband and wife.
Husband and wife.
That remains a secret
Yeah,
between
yeah.
them.
Somehow only those 2 people understand it.
At the end of it all, Javed, have you been a good father?
I don't know. As a matter of fact, I have tried to be a good father, that's for sure. I can tell you that I have tried my best to be a good father.
Do you think you've succeeded?
That's for others to decide.
But
That's
you
for
must have
Farhan and Zoya to decide.
But you must have a verdict on yourself.
I could be better. But I could be a better writer also. I could be a better human being. I'm not totally satisfied with myself on any count.
Was he a good father? Is he a good father?
He's as good as it gets. Yeah, he is my father, and I have a great relationship with him. So I don't think I could ask for more. It's good.
Let's take a break at that point. I want to come back and talk a little bit more, not about the 2 of you, but about each of you individually. We'll be back in a moment's time. See you then. Welcome back. My guests are father and son Farhan and Javed Akhtar. Let's talk a little bit about both of you. Farhan, you often say that more than anything else, what you admire is your father's brutal honesty. Give me an example of what you mean.
It's I don't know, it's very difficult really to like give one example. I just think really in his work, in his relationships with me, with people, in the way he writes, in the way he speaks his mind in public, he's absolutely honest about what he's feeling.
Are you talking about political courage, or are you talking about the personal way he handled the relationship with you, your mother?
I guess that too, that is a part of it. Which is why it'll be too small a thing to narrow it down to one example. I think just as a spectrum in terms of like how he deals with things, with people, with issues, with personal problems, if you want to call it that. There's a sense of honesty, a sense of taking it head on, which I definitely do admire.
Is brutal honesty the secret of a good relationship with your son, or is it actually understanding and learning to see things through his eyes?
It's a dangerous weapon, you know. If you have brutal honesty only about others, then it is nothing but rudeness. But if you can be equally brutal about your own self, your failing, your shortcoming, your pettiness, your selfishness, then you earn the right to talk about everybody in tone of brutal honesty. But this charity should begin at home.
His friends say that in fact of the two of you, Javed is the more complicated person. They say that like you, he comes from a broken home, but almost effectively from childhood he was also in a sense an orphan. He didn't have very much money. He struggled in Bombay, including living on footpaths and caves before he became successful. Is he easy to understand?
It's a very it's a complicated question to answer, really. He's never used that as a thing. Do you know what I mean? In our relationship, it's never been that, oh, I've had all these issues to deal with while I was growing up, and look how easy you have it, so you must understand what I'm saying or see where I'm coming from. It's never that. It's always about what you're talking about right there and then, and seeing reason, seeing logic. And easy to understand, yeah, because he is very good at explaining things.
He's a great communicator.
Yeah, he communicates really well.
I gather one of the things he did was when you were 17, he actually sat you down and explained to you as an adult why he ended the marriage with your mother.
Yeah, I remember that happening. Actually, that stemmed really from me asking him what had happened. I really either didn't gather the courage enough to ask him, or didn't feel it was important enough till that point to ask him why it had happened. And which is again the whole thing of being brutally honest, where he spoke to me about what happened with mom and him and why it needed to happen very honestly, not mincing any words, and accepting blame when it needed to be accepted.
You've said in interviews that you and your son come from different worlds. You say that he grew up speaking English, you were born speaking Urdu. He's a child of modern Bombay, you're a product of traditional UP.
That's true.
Do you end up having similar values, or do those also differ?
To a great extent, I think to a great extent we share same values. That's what I feel. I mean, liberal, secular, fair, as far as gender justice is concerned, or social issues and so on. I never see much gap between what he feels and what I believe in. But I must tell you that not many fathers will confess that. When I was of his age, now he's 28, 29, I was an extremely talented person. There's no doubt about it. I won't be modest about it. I was exceptionally talented. But I don't think I was as sensible as he is. There was tremendous anger in me. My motivating force was not sensibility, but anger.
Anger or frustration?
Anger, I'll say. By this age, I was doing fairly well, so the frustration period was over. But the remnants of that frustration was manifesting itself as anger or whatever. I mean, that is for some psychoanalyst to decide. But I don't think I was as wise or as sensible and as objective about things as he can be. And sometimes he really makes me remember my days, that I very clearly remember that at this age I was not as sensible.
Are you wiser than your father? Are you more balanced? Are you emotionally more mature?
Ultimately he'll be. Give him time.
I don't know. I really don't.
He better be.
Your father speaks very openly. Are you in comparison more reticent and reserved?
I'll let him answer that.
No, I think that with age I have mellowed, and sometimes maybe I can take a more compromising posture. But being a young man, he has more energy in these things. But good. As a matter of fact, I mean, every generation should be more sensible or wiser or more aware than the last generation. That is how things ought to be.
Your first movie, Dil Chahta Hai, was a runaway success. You're in the middle of making your second. Clearly, it's something that's playing on your mind. But after a successful first film, are you more confident, or are you in a strange way a lot more tense?
I'm confident about what I'm doing. I'm confident about the film that I'm working on.
And the expectations people have of you?
I really don't think too much about that.
You've cut them out?
I won't say entirely. I think more about the expectation from people who genuinely care about what I do in life. Not really in terms of what
the critics and the box office don't matter.
I mean, they do matter eventually. But during this point, when I'm making the film, when I'm focusing on it just being made the way I want it to be made, I don't think about it.
Javed, if Laksh flops, will you as the screenplay writer hold yourself responsible?
I don't want even to think about it.
And in other words, you're not going to answer that question until you have to?
Because I can only answer the question if I think about it.
And if it's a huge hit, how much of the credit will go to the screenplay writer?
Drop this F and it's a deal.
He loves to answer questions on your behalf, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think a lot of it. I think a screenplay really is story, and a screenplay is what makes a movie. The rest is just filling in the gaps.
You mean the director's just filling in the gaps? Not quite.
No, not quite, but I mean, with
but
the
as a
relationship
beautiful son, you feel you have to say that.
No, I don't feel that.
I must tell you one thing, that I don't think I'm such a good writer who can take a bad director or a bad actor. Because a bad director can turn the best script into a bad film. That's a fact.
In other words, you've chosen the director to make sure that he covers up for everything.
Hopefully.
Farhan and Javed, good luck with the film, and thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.